Hello, my name is Anita White, and I work with or for Bank on Hampton Roads. And we have this new series. It's called Master Your Money series. And what Master Your Money series is, we want to be able to kind of spotlight what we do in our actual Bank on Hampton Roads classes that start each February and September. So, one of the episodes we've started with is Money on My Mind. And some of the tips we want you guys to take away from those things. Did you know that in 2017, a study showed that a company that had 10,000 employees lost $28,322 a week in productivity because people were worrying about their finances. So, with this series we're doing, one of the things we want you to take away is just there is stress when it comes to worrying about your finances. So, we want you to understand how the mental health or the debt impacts your mental health. We're going to talk about creating a SMART plan or SMART goals, understanding how to plan for those emergencies. And then the biggest piece is the debt reduction. We want you to know how to reduce that debt, whether it's with the snowball avalanche, whether it's with the power pay, whatever the option is for you that best fits for you. And then we also want you to know that it all comes down to being able to prioritize your money and prioritize how you're paying your bills.
You ready?
We are ready. So, whether you're eating lunch or sitting at the beach, you can take advantage of the Money on Your Mind Episode 1 series.
Let's do it.
Well, good afternoon. Hey, I'm excited to be here today to share with you some strategies for your journey to debt-free living. We'll talk a great deal about debt reduction. My name is Dwight Owens. I am one of the board members at Revive Community here, and I'm excited to be here today. This is the circle I call the circle of debt-free living. Welcome to debt-free living. Number one, we're going to start off and we're going to share with you some concepts, some ideas about helping you assess where you are presently in your debt situation. Number two, we'll talk about how do you go about clarifying your vision, setting some goals, aligning your spending. This is a matter of wants versus needs. When you come to spending and according to your values and your priorities. Number four, we'll actually share with you some strategies for how you're going to implement a debt reduction plan, a debt elimination plan. And then we'll talk through this manner of measuring and monitoring your progress. So let's jump in. Let's get started. So as we start the survey here, I've got some friends here, some fellow participants here, and we'll just ask a couple of these questions. Survey question number one, how much debt does your household have? And you've got a range there, mortgages, student loans. How much debt would you say you have?
If we're including student loans, we're at that 51 to 100K.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing. How much debt would you say you
I
have?
certainly have student loans, and I'm currently renting an apartment. So I'll say mine's more on a credit card basis, but it's not 10K though. So I will be kind of a little bit lower than 10K range. Exactly.
Yeah, okay. How about you, man?
Well, since I'm a lot older than these two young people I'm kind of on a downslide. So my mortgage is almost about to be paid off. Got a couple car payments. So I'm probably in the 10 to 25,000 range.
Okay, okay, okay. Good ranges there. Let's proceed to the next survey question here. Question number two. How confident are you that you have your debt under control? Give me some thoughts there about how confident you are.
Somewhat.
Somewhat,
Somewhat,
right
yes.
in the middle there.
Yeah.
I would say I'm somewhat too.
Okay, okay.
Kind of when I do get into depth about certain stuff, it's like I can pay it off, but I probably forgot about something. So in the future it may come up, and I'm like, I need to go take care of it, and then I take care of it. But if it's not on my mind, I feel like, well, I paid it off. Couple months down the line, it starts to add up, then that's when I'm like, oh, okay, I need to take care of that because I'm tired of people following me or getting notifications about it constantly. I'm looking at my credit score and it's not what I want it to be. So,
I see. Okay, interesting. Let's proceed to number three there. Survey question number three says, how much does debt stress you out? How much does debt stress you out, Ms. Anita?
Just a little. It starts stressing me. My husband bought this motorcycle and he wants to get in debt with that motorcycle. We're doing stuff on it, but On a normal, just a little.
Yeah, that's a great point there that she makes. How much does that stress you?
I would say moderate. Really, I haven't faced any like critical like debt where I'm like stressed out all the way to the max, but I have experienced times where it made a hit me, and it's like, okay, I do need to take care of this because I have parents that are like, well, you don't want to be in a situation to where you're in debt and you paying it off for a long period of time. So when they let me know that, I know I gotta attack it early, but I do have times where I kind of bypass it. So I say kind of moderate.
Sure. Okay. Okay. How about you?
A great deal, a lot. I think about it daily. It affects the decisions that I make, whether I can go on vacations with my friends,
Yeah.
do I want to go to a concert or can I just rest? It
Yeah.
consumes you.
How about number 4 here? How much does debt influence your life? And we'll pick right back up there. You just said it.
Yeah,
It
it makes your
it's
decisions
an
that you
everyday.
make. Ooh,
Yeah.
do I do this or do I do that? Do I pay
Yes.
this bill or do I do
Yes.
groceries and hang out with friends? Like, it drives a lot of the decisions that we make.
Those money issues. Let's proceed, and we'll talk about those things as we go. Any guesses? Any idea how much the United States of America's national debt is? Anybody?
I wouldn't think that. I don't know. Okay.
Billions and trillions. Because if they feel like me,
You're
billions and trillions
you're
of
in the
dollars.
neighborhood. You're definitely.
Probably numbers we don't understand.
Receipts already standing.
Yeah, I used to have one of those. If we could just proceed, we'll just go. We used to have a slide there, but here is a look at the national debt. As of today,
Number.
But
34 trillion,
Numbers we don't understand.
474 billion, and the numbers go on. But what it shows is that every single American, whether you pay your taxes or not, is on the hook for about $102,000 of debt.
Wow.
We are a highly leveraged nation.
Wow.
To your question, this is a look at the types of debt that Americans have. Home equity lines of credit. Look at that, student loans. Student loans here for 2023, 1.47 trillion. That's a T.
wow.
Dollars in debt. So lots of student loan debts that you all were
Okay. Well,
were
okay.
mentioning. You're definitely
Okay,
definitely
we're not alone. Not by
alone.
myself.
Take a look at credit card debt. $1.7 trillion of credit card debt. To your questions, we are a highly leveraged nation. We'll proceed here, and we'll talk about how, from an individual perspective, we can eliminate some of that. But just keep in mind, there are some huge psychological impacts to debt. To your point
Yeah.
earlier, it is the finances are closely connected with our overall well-being. This is an Equifax link here where they actually talk to you about the psychological impact of debt. Debt, for example, not only can give you stress and depression and anxiety, there's also some impacts to your physical well-being as well. And ignoring the debt won't make it go away. So that's where you've got to be gazelle intense. You've got to really get focused. You've got to set your goals and your vision on, hey, I'm going to be intentional about getting rid of this debt so that I can move on to do great things in life that I want to do. We'll proceed here. Here are steps, in my view, to a sound financial plan, a financial plan that actually works. Number one, you'd want to start, even with your debt elimination, it all begins with you're having a written budget, a spending plan, right? Where you're going to bring in income, the income that you're bringing in, and you want to match that with the expenses that are going out. You want to establish, in my view, a $1,000 emergency fund before you start to tackle the debt. And that emergency fund is going to free up not having to use the credit card when there's a flat tire or you need a new battery, or as I like to call it, God only knows kinds of matters that happens to us in life. Then you're going to tackle that debt to eliminate it. No matter how long it takes, you're going to stay gazelle intense. You're going to just be intentional about it. Have a well written plan, thought out plan, and we'll show you that. Once that's done, you establish a fully funded emergency fund. What that means for most folks is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Save and invest wisely, beginning with your retirement account. And then I like to just have folks think about fostering high quality relationships and then living, of course, generously. One great measure of performance there in terms of where you are in your debt, and this is looking at where you are, but not only that, but actually helping you measure the performance and track the performance over time, is what we call a debt to income ratio. Now, lenders look at this number. Some lenders will look at it from a gross monthly income. Some lenders will look at it from a net monthly income of what you're actually bringing home after all of your deductions. But in either case, to calculate it, you're going to add up all of your monthly debt, your rent, your mortgage, your car loan, your credit card, your student loan, things that go outflow on a monthly basis. And then you're going to divide that by the income that you bring in. And in this case, again, if we're using a gross amount, it is the amount before any taxes and deductions. Once you divide that, you get a debt to income ratio. And the next chart will show what that looks like. So here's an example. Let's say that you have the following debt. You have rent that you pay, you have auto loans, student loans, and a credit card payment, and that debt totals $2,150 in monthly payments. And the amount of income that you're bringing in is $5,000 in this example. Your debt to income ratio would be 2150 divided by 5,000, or 43% debt to income ratio. Now that 43% in a vacuum doesn't mean a whole lot, but if we fast forward here, we will share with you how lenders view your debt to income ratio. And lenders view anything that is 43% or less, 43% or less, they're willing perhaps to entertain loaning you money. 35% or less is considered safe zone. You've got some flexibility in your budget, you perhaps have some savings. 36 to 49% though, your debt is likely to be manageable, but it's a good idea to reduce that debt. And then 43% or more, hey, caution, you want to be less than that 43%. Definitely 50% or more debt to income ratio is you're considered a danger for you. You want to start taking some drastic measures there. You want to perhaps start seeking counseling, because at that point you are considered in hot water. Yes, sir.
I actually got 2 questions for you.
Sure.
What type of debts are considered in this ratio, and is this for any type of income that you have coming in?
Yeah, great question. The debt includes things like we have there auto loans, your mortgage, or your rent. Now, rent, that's a good one. Rent is not necessarily a debt, but rent covers your housing. It is one of those that we consider the 4 walls. You need housing as a basis, because you really would have psychological, some real issues. So rent is a great example. Rent is included. However, utilities are not, right? So the amount that you're paying to Virginia Power, to your water bill, Cox Cable, no, you wouldn't include those. The phone bill, the cell phone bill, you may have it on like assignment or layaway or actually debt, but that would not be considered a debt to income ratio that lenders are looking for.
What about like your insurance or medical bills, or
Right.
maybe that like random piece of mail that comes in to remind you that you have to pay something?
Yes, ma'am. Great question. Let's take medical bills.
Okay.
Medical bills that you already have incurred the debt on. It's perhaps in collection. It's
Okay.
perhaps you're getting phone calls. Yes, ma'am. Definitely included in your ratio.
Okay.
The bill that you just went to the doctor for your annual physical and you get the $35 copay, no, ma'am, it would not be considered in this ratio.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay.
Other questions? You said you had a second one.
Fantastic. It's my second one was, is this for any type of income that you have coming in?
Great question. In this particular example, it is the gross. So it is the amount of income that you're earning before any taxes, before any deductions come out.
Okay.
In this particular example, there are lenders, however, out there that will do this from a net income perspective, and then these percentages will change somewhat. So your net is your actual take-home pay, the amount that's actually direct deposited in your bank, as an example, after taxes, after insurances, after your retirement 401k kind of deductions come out.
So,
So Dwight, if I have a side hustle that my income is like up and down, one month it may be a good amount that I'm getting and the next month is not. Should I include that? Or would a lender look at that income when I'm doing the debt to income?
Yeah, great question. Typically, what lenders are going to do is you're going to bring to them your rolling 12 months. So they're going to look at 12 months of previous earnings, irregular in your side business, in your irregular income. And they're going to generally take two numbers. They're going to take the lowest amount, and then they're going to take the median, the average across those, and see. They're going to run typically calculations against both of those numbers, but the numbers that they're going to go with is potentially, and more often than not, that lower number, that least amount, because that gives them, again, an absolute flooring in which to make this calculation.
I just have one more question, so that way when I tell my friends about this, they understand it. This is in reference to going to seek a lender, not in reference to my like all of my debt, right? This is just if I want to maybe get a loan, looking for a new car and things like that. Is that correct?
It's actually a good measure for both.
Okay.
It actually gives you a great indication of where you are.
Okay.
If you go through and make this calculation in this particular example and your number comes out 35% or less, you are considered, in the green zone.
Okay.
Conversely, if it's more than 50%, think about that one for a second. Conceptually, if you're down here at 50%, that means half of all of your income that comes in is going to debt service.
Yeah.
Back to your earlier point, it doesn't go to the water bill,
Yeah.
to the utilities, to the child care center, perhaps.
Okay.
So then you want to start taking, some serious measures to reduce it.
Understand now. Thank you.
Let's talk about these warning signs. We just talked about exceeding the 50% debt limit. But what about some of these other ones that perhaps speak to you, that is your current situation? If you are, for example, working unwanted hours to pay debt, that's probably a warning sign that you want to pay attention to. What about your ability to make more than the minimum payment? If you're only capable of making minimum payment or no payment at all, probably a warning sign. How about taking out new loans, for example, to get rid of credit that you've already incurred? How about bills that are paid late or skipped or perhaps in default? These are warning signs that you definitely want to pay attention to. If you are, in fact, using credit impulsively, living beyond your means, it is certainly something you want to pay attention to. This following example kind of mirrors that. If you're borrowing to pay for regular expenses like groceries, like household supplies, I would personally caution going to the Food Lion and putting, a carton of eggs on your credit card. You may want to pay attention to that. Putting off essential medical and dental work because you can't afford it. Again, particularly an issue in the community of lesser means, where the inability economically can lead to health issues, can lead to their own health crisis because you're not taking care of your body, taking care of your temple. Losing track of how much you owe, and then using your current savings to pay bills, those are all warning signs. When debt exceeds assets, you may be familiar with this from the car note that you have when you're considered upside down with you owing more on the car than the car is actually worth. So again, this isn't an all-inclusive list, but it will certainly give you a good indication of where you are. Just see where, just can you see yourself in some of these warning signs as an example. So the next chart will actually talk about setting SMART goals. And we'll get to an example of SMART goals and what that really means. But right now, I want you to just take a minute and actually see yourself debt free. Ask yourself, what does debt free living mean to me? Ask yourself, hey, in 5 years, how much debt do I want to have? And you can just actually dream about that. Dream out loud. That's what vision is all about. It is about seeing yourself one day debt free. It is, I like to call it, hey, you walk into work and I realize that, we're in your employer spaces, but, hey, John down the hallway, makes you angry this day, and you say, hey, I'm leaving for the day. And the boss asks, hey, where are you leaving? I quit. Don't have a car note. Don't have a house note. Don't have a house payment to make. So I'm just going to go and chill on the beach down here in Virginia Beach for a second. But these are the kinds of things you want to just start to dream about.
Yeah.
Hey, people of faith, hey, the pastor calls and says, hey, we need X amount of money in the building fund to do X, Y, Z. Well, we need to do X, Y, Z. Hey, okay, great. Hey, here's a check that you write. Your family members, right? You wouldn't want to loan money to family members. I personally would not. But family members, hey, I need $300, to fix my car. Can you loan me? No, I won't loan you anything. Here's $300. Go fix your car. Begin to dream about what it means for debt-free living.
Wow. There's freedom in that.
There's a lot of
It's
freedom.
like, ooh, there's no wait.
There's a lot of freedom in that.
Definitely.
There's a lot of freedom in that. So here are SMART goals. We talk about defining goals that are specific, which is the S, that are measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And so relative to debt, here's a great example. A great example would be, hey, I want to do this specific thing. I want to be able to reduce my $45,000 of debt by $15,000 annually over the next 3 years. And then you begin to go to work and be intentional about doing it. Well, how am I going to measure that? I'm going to measure that by December 31st of this year, I would want to be at $30,000 of debt because I would have reduced $15,000 of that. That is a measurable, discrete number. Hey, is it achievable? Hey, yes, I believe this is achievable. I can reach this debt reduction goal here that's taught in our Bank On class by paying an extra $400 a month in debt reduction. That gets me to the $15,000 annually. Hey, is it relevant? Absolutely. I need to reduce that debt to income ratio. Wow, it cannot be 50% or greater. Wow, I want more income to go into my savings, to be able to pay, to be able to loan, to give, not loan, my family members money, not go into debt. And of course, time bound. We're looking at a 3-year horizon here. It gives you a focus. It gives you something to target. This is SMART goals, and I would highly encourage anyone before you start to begin your debt reduction plan to just take a moment and do this exercise.
Definitely. And I think writing stuff down is so much better because we all have plans in our heads. And we're like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's just a plan. But once you actually can visualize it, write it down, you can check those boxes as it's done. I think it makes meeting your goals, whether it's reducing debt or whatever, weight loss, whatever it is, I think it makes that goal more achievable when you can look at it each day.
Would you consider like starting it off as a small goal and then increasing it up by time, or would you just say, "Hey, I know some people that want to start off at the biggest goal where they know they might can't like reach all the way."
Yeah.
Would you think it would be smarter to start off like kind of small, like if you know you spend money above your means, kind of like shorten it down a little bit more and then build in there, or you might as well just I'm not spending no money at all when I say
Good question. Here's my answer to that. Here's what I would encourage you to do. It's all about you. It's all about how relevant it is for you. But the key there in what you said is to start. So if you feel like relevance and achievable, that, hey, I need to start small, guess what? Start small.
Sir.
Give yourself that ability, that cushion to say, hey, I've met that goal. And what you will find is once you get momentum and once you get confidence, you'll be able to stretch that thing, right? You'll be able to say, I'm going to do this 45K in the next year. You may not have started there. You may only start with, hey, 1,000, in the next year. But as that momentum grows, as we'll see in that snowball strategy, that's what it's all about. As you get more momentum, you get more confidence, right? You get the assurance that, hey, I can do this. It can be done. Yeah, I'm literally staring at, 6-figure amount of debt. But as you start to work that, you get the confidence you need.
And then it's behavioral changes too. So we get used to doing something. We're used to eating out 5 days a week. And we'll say, we don't have the money to save or to budget. So as you start doing those things in smaller amounts, if you're eating out 5 days a week and you're trying to save for a SMART goal, maybe make it 3 days a week.
Mhm.
So you have to do something that's easy, because when you go cold turkey, we see it all the time in Bank on Hampton Roads classes. People will be like, oh, I'm not eating out anymore. I eat out too much. But what we see is when you're doing these things, if you just go cold turkey, you feel like all you are doing is working to pay bills. So my money comes in, I pay a bill. So you have to figure out the fine balance. And Devna's great thing, you have to start small. I feel like you would have to start small, because jumping in head first and I'm gonna start saving $1,000 a month
Yeah,
when you haven't even been saving 50.
yeah.
That's a stretch.
Achievable.
Big stretch.
Achievable. Yeah, exactly. To Anita's point, don't start out, if you got $100,000 in debt, saying, hey, it's going to be eliminated in the next 3 months, right? That's not achievable. It's not realistic.
Right.
It's not. Okay. Here's some smart decisions to help you reduce that debt. Stop incurring new debt. Stop incurring new debt. Make sense?
Hey, that was good.
That was a punch. Stop incurring new debt. Start aligning your spending to your values and your priorities, and you will begin to see, if we go way back to that first chart or earlier charts where that spending plan, that budget will help you see that, will help you determine, hey, am I really spending things on the things that I value the most, on my priorities? And then consider using a debit card. Pay that balance off in full each and every month.
Question. For those of us who the balance is too high to pay off each month, is it okay to still just make the minimum and maybe make extra payments?
Yes, ma'am. Great
Because
question.
paying it off each month, for some of us, is just not realistic.
Sure.
Want it to be, but right now it's not. And so what is the,
We'll actually talk about that in this
Okay.
presentation. That's a great
Okay, great.
question. So
Okay.
write that one down.
Yes.
Remind me when we get
Okay.
there. You won't have to remind me.
don't
I'll
worry,
know it.
I'm
We talk about wants versus needs. And again, that goes back to that values and that priorities piece that we talked about. Using assets to pay off debt. If you've got the assets, the means to do that in a savings account and a high yielding money market, and other assets, liquid assets, or even things like longer term. There are one caution there that I hear a lot, though I have to interject here. I hear folks asking a question all the time. Hey, do I use my 401k or do I use my retirement savings to borrow against, as an example, to pay debt? My answer is emphatically no, absolutely not, because you want those retirement assets working for you when you're 65, when you're retired, whatever retirement age for you in life. And when you borrow against that, when you take monies out of that retirement, those retirement assets, it actually then kind of halts the growth pattern there, which we'll talk about a little bit in the presentation as well, the time value of money. So use assets, yes, not retirement assets. Make sense? Makes sense? Remember, debt today robs your future. And here's why. Because when you're using that credit, when you're going into debt, it literally commits your future income. It is income that you're going to use in the future that you haven't even made. It's already earmarked for debt.
Wow.
By the way, your most powerful wealth building tool is, guess what? Your income. Your income is your most powerful tool. So that debt, you're actually distributing that income to the Visas and the MasterCards and the American Expresses of the world and not going into your savings. Here's an example of how making a minimum payment on debt will keep you in debt for a very long time. In this particular example, let's say you have a credit card debt on one credit card of $5,000. The interest rate on that card is 15% annually, and you're making the minimum payment of $150. That debt will actually keep you strapped for about 14 years and 5 months. You would be paying on this $5,000 balance.
Okay, question. So that's what I don't get that. So they say it's good to have credit cards because it help build your credit, but as soon as I use the credit card, I'm in debt.
Correct. The benefit and the management piece of that is paying it in full every month. We talked about that a little earlier. Remember, when you can pay it off in full every month, you're not being charged this 15% because it's on the balance that you're carrying each month. That's why they love for you. They frown when you send the payoff in full. When you send the minimum payment, they're smiling. They're saying, thank you very much. Let's fast forward here and we'll show you how. Here's that example, that same example of a $5,000 balance, and you're paying the minimum payment. You're going to send in a payment of $150. They're going to take of that, they're going to take out, before they apply any principal, $62.50 interest on that money.
Because you paid them.
Correct. So your $150 payment isn't all going to reduce this principal balance. Only $87.50 is going towards the principal. The rest over here is interest. So fast forward a whole year of you're making $150 payments there. At the end of the year, your balance is still $4,045.
Sorry, what? Wait.
Yes. Yes. Do a quick calculation. 150 times 12. Do 150 times 12 months.
Well, here it looks like maybe the payment went down because maybe I don't know. But I guess my question is,
Shoot.
what do you do if you're already in this situation?
We're
Because some people feel hopeless in this situation,
So you shouldn't
right?
even get like a higher credit card. Like it should. I don't know. Like you should stay low, I guess. But
You shouldn't get one.
I think what you're asking is the interest rate, the 15%. Yes. When you can get credit at 2%, only 2% is going towards the interest. The other 98% is going towards that principal.
And then what I see
Wow.
with the credit, you know, some things we have to have credit. I think the issue for us with credit is, okay, so I'm older than you guys. I looked at my parents and my grandparents. They didn't want instant gratification. Like for us, we microwave babies.
Yeah.
We want it. If we don't have the cash, we're going to charge it.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, they would kind of try to save up to buy stuff. So I think what gets us in the hot water is we'll get one credit card. Then once they see your credit is good, they send you another credit card. So we're just using all these credit cards, paying a minimum amount, and then that's how we get stressed out with so much debt because we want stuff instantly, so we're not budgeting, we're not saving for it, which are the right things to do, and it gives us all this credit card debt.
It
And
is.
then like Dwight said, the banks are like, hey, keep paying $150 because at the end of the year, you still owe us
A lot.
$4,000.
Can I give y'all quick examples? So
Please.
that's So I got a credit card. I got one. I got the cash reward for Navy Federal. Now they wanted me to go higher. Like my range is literally 1,500. I don't go higher than that. Now they asked me, well, what's you're approved for this and approved for that. But then I'm like, I want to, but I'm scared because stuff like this,
Yeah.
like me, if I got it, like I need to learn that. I need to learn how to save better because once I have it, like, and when you spoke about the side hustle, I have a side hustle. So when I know, oh, I don't got it right now, but I'll make it back in like a week or 2 days.
Yeah.
But then it's like I don't want to put myself in a hole to where it's like I'm up against this monster right here and I'm constantly stressed out. So I stay really comfortable in the low. So I'm like, okay, I can afford that. I can pay that off when I get my stuff going on. But I do want to be able to go up, but I don't know when I should go ahead and take that leap because I'm not all the way comfortable because I don't want me to lose something and then I'm stuck with this monster right here.
Don't take the discipline.
So I applaud. I applaud your being scared. I applaud your discipline. I believe you're making some very, very wise and smart decisions.
Yeah.
And you hit on it. We talked a couple slides before about living within your means. So you increase your limit as your income increases, right? As your means. But as where you are today, you're in a comfortable spot for you. That's what it's all about. It's being in a comfortable place for you
So that's good.
and not bringing on discomfort.
Good job.
All right.
Good job.
All right. So we'll fast forward here. The rule of 72 is a simple math formula that says you take the number of 72 and you divide into it the annual interest rate that you expect to earn on your capital, your money. It gives you the number of years for money to double. So as an example here, if in fact you are earning 24% on your money, 72 divided by 24 equals 3 years. That means in 3 years, if you're earning 24%, we'll go from 100 to 200 to 400 to 800 to 1600 to 3200. Makes sense? In 3 years. Conversely, if your money is sitting at 4%, which is a typical money market at some institutions today, never mind banks that are only paying you 0.5%, less than 1%. But if it takes you 4 years, it takes 18 years for that same $100 to go to 200, to go to 400. How about the savings account that's paying you 1%? We'll be generous and kind. 72 divided by 1 equals what? 72. That means in that savings account, for $100 to go to $200 is probably well beyond all of our lifetimes because it takes 72 years literally to go from 100 to 200. Does that concept make sense? Does that concept make sense to you? So let's take a look at how lenders kind of view that. The Visas, the MasterCards, the other financial institutions, the banks, the finance centers at the auto place, they understand that full well. They understand that they're charging you 24% interest. They're going to look to double their money in the next 3 years. Folks, I will tell you, the most profitable center in the car dealership is not selling you cars. It's not even in the maintenance. The most profitable center is in their finance department, because that's where they understand the power of this. So that chart we saw, little charts earlier, was, hey, he who understands this rule of 72, he who understands it will in fact use it to his or her advantage. If you don't understand it, it's to your detriment. So let's transition here to understanding some and implementing some strategies for getting out of debt. First of all, you're going to list all the creditors, the folks that you owe money to, with the balances, the annual percentage rates, the minimum payments that are required, and the actual payments there. We talked about developing the spending and savings plan. So in each of these strategies that we're going to talk about, you want to continue making the minimum payment on each debt. That keeps the creditors at bay. You won't be going to collections. You won't be getting phone calls, in the middle of the night. And you're going to work extra for extra income if you need to, if it comes to that. Temporarily, for a season, but that's possible. And then make some extra payments here. And these two strategies that we're going to talk about is one that you're going to align your smallest to largest balances called the debt snowball, and another one where you align highest interest rates. That's why when you're listing them, it's important to list not only the balances, but the annual percentage rate. Whichever strategy you use, we're simply going to roll over money to the next phase of the debt, and we'll show you that. Use the Power Pay. I think someone mentioned early on that Power Pay is a great tool
Yeah, I
for
like
implementing
Power
this
Pay.
strategy.
Good.
And so we'll show you this. Let's go to the next one here and we'll view this. Two strategies, your debt action plan, debt snowball, debt avalanche. Again, one of them called the debt snowball, where you're going to align those debts based on the smallest to the largest. And the other one where you're going to align the highest percentage interest rate from highest to largest. In both cases, you're going to continue to make minimum payments. You're going to continue to make that $50 minimum payment, that $25 minimum payment. And then you're going to allow yourself to have some extra income where you're working, where you got a side hustle, I think we talked about, where you may have some additional income and you're going to pay that all on the extra on that smallest debt. Here's some pros and cons to each. I will tell you that having worked both, I personally prefer the debt snowball method. And here's why. When you've got, let's say for example, this highest interest rate there, if you were to align that, is on a credit card that you only owe $800 to, right? If you're aligning that up to pay, I'm sorry, let's say that it is on a credit card that you owe $20,000 to. I stand corrected. If you're paying the minimum payment or anything extra on that, even though it's a higher interest rate, wow, it's going to take you just a minute or two to pay off, right, that $20,000 on that high credit card. Conversely, if you were to align those from the smallest to the largest, and that minimum payment is $800, and you're paying, say, $100, and you're paying an extra $100 to $200, you're going to have that thing knocked out in about 4 months. Then you're going to roll to the next one.
So just to clarify, at its basic point, the debt snowball starts at the smallest amount, and I pay as as the amounts get higher, and then the debt avalanche starts at the highest interest rate,
Interest rate.
and I pay as the interest rates get lower.
Correct, as you pay those off.
Okay.
Yes. We'll proceed here. We'll proceed to give an example. And this is directly from that PowerPay site that we'll go to here in a minute. Let's say, for example, you've lined up all of your debt. You've got a credit card, a couple of credit cards, an auto loan, a student loan. Total debt, $9,800, $9,846. You're going to essentially pay, and you can pay $100 extra each month. You've got $100 of cushion in your budget. You're going to continue to make that minimum payment on all of these, whatever that minimum is here as shown. And you're going to make that extra $100. If you go to the next chart, I believe, you're going to make that extra $100 on that minimum payment.
Gotcha.
Once you're done, you will have $591 of minimum payments across all of those debts. You'd be making $600 total. Total amount repaid is not in 4 years of making just the minimum, but because that extra $100, you'll be able to pay off the entire amount of debt in 1 year and 3 months. You save yourself almost 3 years
Wow, that's
in
good.
debt payoff.
Just by making the
Just by making that extra $100
Wow.
a month using this snowball method.
okay.